Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming all of you guys to Watang Yu. Welcome. Nice to see all of you guys. Welcome. Welcome to everyone who's online as well. Sawadee Krap to all of you. Would like to just welcome you guys to the temple. And today is a third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching. And I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's completely fine because we have regular classes on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And whenever we're teaching courses, when we have those regular classes, those folks just come in. All of our courses are available to all beings. You can attend these courses at no cost. So if you're here today and we're planning to be here for the morning, feel free to come and go as you please. But if you'd like to stick around, you're more than welcome to, because after our meditation, what I'm going to be teaching is how to train the mind to acquire concentration, because it's so important to have concentration in your day-to-day life, where you might notice it, whether you're at work or at home or different things like this, that your mind might wander around. It might be really challenging for you to be able to stay focused and concentrated at any given situation. But I'm going to share with you how to train your mind to develop this focus and concentration so you can bring forth your wisdom to whatever task it is that you're doing so that you can experience the best results. So if you'd like to join for meditation, what I'm going to be doing is loving kindness meditation to guide you guys in this meditation, and then afterwards I'll be sharing the talk on developing concentration in the mind. And then after our mid-morning break, I'm going to be teaching about the ego and what that is and how to actually eliminate it and dissolve it, because in order to get to this enlightened mental state, you need to be able to eliminate the ego. And then we're going to take an hour-and-a-half lunch, and when we come back, I'm going to share another topic in the afternoon. It slips my mind right now what it is. I can't remember, actually. Let me check to see what is it we're going to talk about this afternoon. There we go. The animal to human. I'm going to be teaching you how our consciousness moves from the animal existences to the human existence, and how oftentimes the unenlightened mind is functioning very much like an animal. But we're not animals, we're human beings. And on the path to enlightenment, the goal is to be able to train your mind to become more and more human. So when you can identify these animalistic instincts that the mind has in the human consciousness, you can learn to shed those to become a better and better human being. Because this path to enlightenment, what it's all about is training your mind to get to this peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy, where you no longer experience any discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind, because you've trained the mind and you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing it. So this meditation that we're going to be doing today in the morning, this loving kindness meditation, this is designed to eliminate your anger, your hatred, your ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. Right now, if you dislike people, this is based on what's going on within your own mind. It's not that person that's causing you to dislike them. It's what's going on within your own mind. So the teachings of the Buddha are here to train you and help you and guide you to be able to get to a point where you can live harmoniously with all beings. But as long as you have this anger and frustration and hostility and bitterness within your own mind, you're going to be putting that out in your relationships, and that's what's going to be coming back to you. So this meditation is going to help you essentially to rewire your mind to be more loving and kind in your relationships. And now through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, when you're being more loving and kind, this is what you'll see coming back to you. But when you're bitter and harsh and hostile to people, that's what's going to end up coming back to you. And not only can this meditation help you to essentially rewire your mind so you're more loving and kind towards others, but also to this being who you are. Sometimes you might have an inner dialogue that is degrading and diminishing. You might have this self-speak or this self-talk within your own mind where you're degrading and diminishing yourself. So this will essentially help you to rewire all of that. The way that we do this meditation is we ease into the meditation with some chanting. And if you'd like to see these chants, you're welcome to get a chanting sheet over there on the table. There's laminated sheets that will help you to be able to see what the chants are, and I'm going to be chanting those as part of our meditation. If you look at these chants, there's a lot of appreciation and gratitude and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants. This isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship or anything like that. What these chants are for is to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings word for word, because everything that he taught was oral. They didn't write things down until after his death. So this chanting, there isn't anything mystical or magical about it. It's not a prayer. It's not worship or anything like that. I don't even think the Buddha created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because of this admiration and respect that's in the chants. I can be sure that the Buddha didn't teach these because he wouldn't have given chants out to his students and say, hey, chant these things to me in order to respect me. But instead, if you learned from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to the peace and the joy, and this teacher didn't want anything from you and didn't expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So I think his students probably created these either during his life or after his death. So I use these chants nowadays in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself, because we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings. We have books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this to be able to capture the teachings. So if you like to chant along as we're starting our meditation, feel free to join in with the chant. Then you're going to hear me come in with some guidance for the breathing mindfulness meditation. We're going to do this for a short little period as we're easing into the loving kindness meditation. After I give you that guidance on the breathing mindfulness meditation, there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just meditating together. Sure, you're going to hear occasional sounds here and there, but these are all impermanent. And when you hear these things, you can just understand that you don't have to have a craving for quietness or a desire, a longing or yearning. You're going to hear different things in an environment. You're never going to be in an environment where it's completely quiet. So it's important not to crave and long and yearn for quietness, because otherwise, when you hear a sound, your mind's going to be annoyed or frustrated or agitated. So you're going to see that we're going to do just a short little breathing mindfulness meditation for about 3 minutes to kind of ease into the loving kindness meditation. I'm then going to come in with the guidance on the loving kindness meditation. I'm going to be doing these affirmations out loud. And when you hear these affirmations, you can repeat these in your mind on the out breath. You're going to hear affirmations like, may I be peaceful. And may I be safe. We're going to essentially make these rings where we have these wider and wider rings where we eventually get to all beings. And then after that, we're going to go back to the breathing mindfulness meditation and then back to the chanting. So it's kind of like a loving kindness sandwich. You've got loving kindness in the middle, the lettuce and tomatoes like the breathing mindfulness meditation, and then the bread holding it all together, that's the chanting. So this meditation that we're doing, it's to rewire your mind. It's not to send loving kindness to others. It's not to try to change other people. You can't change other people. If someone's going to change, they have to choose for themselves to do that. You can't meditate and change other people. The way that you're going to get to peace and joy is by training your own mind and changing your own mind. You're not going to get to peace and joy by training other people and training other people to do things your way. That's not how the peace is going to occur. So this meditation is to transform your mind so that you're more loving and kind, so that when you're around the individuals in your life, you can be more loving and kind. Instead of being bitter and harsh and hostile, you can be, through your intentions, speech, and actions, more loving and kind. And this is what's going to promote more harmonious relationships in your life. So if you'd like to join, there's actually 4 positions that the Buddha taught for meditation, but we only use 3 of them for loving kindness meditation, either seated, lying, or standing. But there's actually a walking meditation as well, but we don't tend to do loving kindness meditation in that position. So I'll give you guys a little bit of guidance on the seated position just to help you guys out, that if you're on the floor, you might have a cushion or more under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat. Some people like to sit in chairs. We have chairs here as well. And if you're at home, you might be on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair or something like this. So you like to sit however you're comfortable. If you're on the floor, you might just have your legs lightly crossed. This will allow the circulation to flow in the lower body rather than having your legs real tight. Some people like to put their legs off the mat, and this can be comfortable for you as well because it gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. Because it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. You need to find what's comfortable for you. So if you like to put your legs off the mat, go for it. Find whatever's comfortable for you. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. So if you like to do that, you're more than welcome to do that. But again, it's not about everyone doing it the same way. There's other options here for you as well. You could put your palms on your thighs or your knees. You could put your palms up. You might even rest your hands comfortably in your lap. So whatever is comfortable for you, you can do whatever you like. And for those of you guys that are in chairs or in a wheelchair, on a sofa or a couch, oftentimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. But you can see me, I'm sitting in a chair with my legs crossed, so you could really sit however you're comfortable. And then the same thing with the hands and arms. You can just put them wherever you're comfortable. The upper body is helpful if it's erect, with your sternum up and your shoulders back. This will keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation, so you can actively train your mind. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're arising certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like your mind to be attentive and alert so that you can actively train your mind during the meditation. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose by having your sternum up and your shoulders back. So again, I'm going to ease us into the meditation with chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on. And then afterwards, I'll come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanhang Apivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes. And start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, neighbors, and co-workers all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang namami. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho. Vichācāranang sammuno sakhato rokavitu. Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusanang Bhoto bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone online. Sawadee-khap. Good morning to everyone. Nice to see you all here today. For those of you guys that it's your first time here at the temple, I'll just share a couple of things with you to help you be even more comfortable here at the temple. We have a bathroom in the very back of the room, the last door on the right. You're welcome to use it at any time. And if you go outside the classroom to the parking lot, you're going to see some signs that'll take you around to the main temple bathrooms. You're welcome to use those at any time. We even have water and some snacks that show up over here from time to time from our students that you're welcome to help yourself to. Feel free to get any of that stuff over there on the table. There's water, and I think I see some snacks over there as well. Feel free to help yourself to any of that stuff. So this meditation that we just did, loving kindness meditation, as I was mentioning, this is designed to rewire your mind to help you become more loving and kind, so that in your relationships, through you being more loving and kind for a consistent long-term period, you'll be able to see that your relationships really improve. Oftentimes in our life, we look at people around us and we want everyone else to change. We keep really being maybe even resentful to the point where we really want these people to change. But in order for you to experience change in your life, you're going to need to do the work in order to change. And then as you start improving, you'll see the people around you doing the same thing. So this meditation is to help you eliminate your anger, hatred, ill will, your frustration, agitation, annoyance, anything like this, even the slightest dislike towards another being. And it can also help you to eliminate that negative self-talk, that degrading and diminishing inner dialogue that you might have. So this happens through rewiring your mind. And now through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, you can go out into the world and be more loving and kind. If when we did this meditation, you didn't really notice much loving kindness in the mind, this is all the more reason to do this. Sometimes when people actually are doing this meditation, you're like, wow, I just didn't notice it. It just didn't feel like there was any loving kindness there. That's the whole reason why you need to do this meditation. Because what you might have been doing in life is, as you're experiencing anger and frustration, you might be attributing these feelings to other people. You might be thinking mom and dad or brothers and sisters or your friends or coworkers are creating this anger, but this anger is actually being caused by your own mind. The teachings of the Buddha will help you to be able to see this in a way that you can independently verify. And when you're experiencing anger, what you might have been doing is pushing people away out of your life and kind of erecting a wall between you and them. And now what this loving kindness meditation is doing is it's helping you to break through this wall and knock it down. And it's hard to break through a wall. So you might not notice the loving kindness in the mind as you're first doing this meditation. When you're experiencing anger and things like this in your day-to-day life, you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, speech, and actions, trying to get them to do things your way. And this isn't going to promote harmonious relationships in your life. Or you might be putting expectations on people and trying to control them to get them to do things your way. But more and more, as you study the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you can learn them, examine them, and investigate them, you can reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or false, and you practice these teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life, you can see the truth that your mind is actually causing all these discontent feelings. It's not possible for someone else to cause you discontent feelings. So all the anger, the sadness, the frustration, the guilt, the shame, the fear, the stress, the anxiety, the loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these feelings are being caused from within your own mind. And because of that, you can actually eliminate them. And the Buddha provides the tools and the techniques to be able to help you to accomplish that. So in this meditation, while I did some kind of generalized affirmations using things like, all those who have harmed me, or all those that I have harmed, and things like this. These are very general statements in order to kind of lead a group of people in a loving kindness meditation. In order for this to be really effective, you're going to need to customize this for your specific needs. There might be certain people that you do have anger towards, that you're bitter and hostile towards, that you do have resentment towards, that you hate even, or that you even dislike. And you're going to need to customize this, where if there's someone in your life named Bob or Susie or Barbara or somebody like this, you're going to need to include that person in your meditation so that you can gradually wear away any kind of bitterness and hostility that's in your own mind. This could be people that are currently in your life, or this could be people that are long gone. They might even be dead. But as long as your mind's holding on to anger and resentment, you're not going to be free of those feelings. You're going to continue to experience those painful feelings over and over and over again. Sometimes what we do with our lack of wisdom is we hold on to our anger and our resentment, thinking that this is our way to get back at the other person. That you might firmly believe in your mind that somebody else is causing you to be angry, and you might think by holding on to your anger that you're getting back at this person or this resentment. But all you're doing is it's like holding a hot coal in your hand and you're trying to burn somebody else. The only person getting burned is you. So by getting rid of this anger and this resentment that's in your mind, or any lesser versions of that, you can get liberated and you can get free from this, where you don't have to keep experiencing these strong feelings over and over and over and over again. So you're going to need to customize this meditation for yourself. And you're going to need to maybe create about 6 to 8 rings, no more than that, because they kind of is too much for your mind to handle at that point. But if you can customize this for yourself, or maybe you start with a ring or two of people that you do have loving kindness for, so you can kind of bubble that up a bit. Then go to maybe a ring or two of people that you're more neutral about, maybe like coworkers or a neighbor, somebody like this. You don't necessarily hate them, but you don't necessarily love them either. You're kind of more neutral about them. So you like a kind of a ring or two of those individuals. And then ultimately you like to get to a couple of rings of people that you do have anger and hatred towards. And now when you do this for a consistent long-term period, you'll wear that away. And then you're going to need to take those people out because you don't hate them anymore. You don't dislike them anymore. You're not frustrated anymore. And now there's going to be other people that you need to include into your meditation. So this meditation starts with you because you need to have loving kindness for this being. If you're being degrading and judgmental and negative and diminishing towards this being who you are, that's just going to be defeating and sabotage you in your life because you're constantly degrading yourself. That's why we start with, may I be peaceful. And then you kind of expand from there until eventually get to all beings. And you like to customize this for yourself. If you notice during this meditation, I said, may all those who have caused me harm be peaceful, right? So what I just shared and what some of you guys have learned with me in a way that you've independently verified is that you can't cause other people to be discontent, and other people can't cause you to be discontent, but they can cause you harm, and you can cause other people harm. The difference between discontentedness and harm is discontentedness is like the anger, the sadness, the frustration, the guilt, the shame, the stress, the anxiety, all these things. Nobody can cause that for you. Your mind is causing that yourself. But someone can cause you harm. They can harm your material possessions. They can harm this physical body. They can harm your reputation. They can do these kinds of things. And you can do these kinds of things too. But whenever you're putting out harm, this harm is just going to come back to you. So if anybody anybody has harmed you in your life, which you probably have had that experience where they might have harmed your physical body, they might have harmed your material possessions, they might have harmed your reputation, you would like to let that go and not hold on to that. Don't hold on to the resentment and the anger that was produced in your mind. Because while those people might have caused harm to your physical body, your material possessions, or your reputation, they didn't cause you to be angry about that. Because if somebody caused harm to any of these things in my life, I wouldn't have any anger. And the Buddha wouldn't have any anger either. Because if it was other people that was causing you to be angry, you would never be able to get to enlightenment. You'd have to go around the world and train everybody else to do things your way. Because when the mind has a certain expectation, when it has cravings and longing and yearning and wants, when you get those fulfilled, you'll get happy, you'll get excited, you'll get pleasant feelings. But when you're not getting what you want, you'll get angry or sad or frustrated. Think back to when you were a child. You really wanted chocolate and ice cream, and you might have begged mom and dad for chocolate and ice cream. And when they gave it to you, you were so happy. Happy, 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 happy. It's the happiest day in the world. And if you got chocolate and ice cream 2 or 3 times in a day, oh my goodness, you were in heaven, right? But then at some point, you asked mom and dad for chocolate and ice cream, and they said, no, you can't have it. And then you might have been angry or frustrated or agitated. This is because the mind's not getting its cravings fulfilled. The mind is longing, yearning for something. You can't get what you want permanently because you live in an impermanent world. So as long as your mind has craving, desire, attachment, and you want things to be a certain way, when you get what you want, you'll get pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, and euphoria. But when you don't get what you want, you'll get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, stress, anxiety, all these different painful feelings. The mind is craving permanence. It's wanting things to be a certain way. If you think about that boyfriend and girlfriend that you first got together with, you felt so great. There were so much pleasant feelings when you guys first got together because someone was showing you affection and you had this new person in your life. You're having great conversations. You're going to the park, going to the movies, going out to dinner. You might have been having intimate contact. It was so wonderful. But then at some point, you guys kept putting expectations on each other where you wanted things from them and they wanted things from you, and you couldn't fulfill their expectations and they couldn't fulfill your expectations, and you guys broke up. And then you really might have gotten angry or frustrated. You might have felt lonely or bored. You might have felt like you were missing this person. It's not the love that's causing that. It's the mind craving permanence. It's holding on. It wants this person to be permanent in your life. But unfortunately, everything around you is impermanent. So as long as your mind is craving permanence and wanting things to be permanent, you'll be happy when you get what you want. You'll be sad or frustrated when you don't get what you want. It's just like if you had a brand new car and you parked it at a store and it got scratched. You might get angry or frustrated or agitated about that. It's not the scratch that's causing it. It's not the person who caused the scratch. It's the mind craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way. And the more that you can see this in your own life, then you can actually solve it. Because if you're going around the world trying to convince other people to do things your way, then you'll never actually solve your problem. So you can take a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling and look at it with these fresh eyes. And what was it that your mind wanted in that situation? There was something you wanted. And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been so happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you got angry or sad or frustrated or irritated or some other discontent feeling. And when you can see the truth in this, that your mind is causing your own discontent feelings, then it's just a matter of applying the tools and techniques to be able to train your mind, and you can transform this. Because these painful feelings are not permanent. You can eliminate them from the mind. You don't have to walk around experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. You can actually completely transform the mind and train it to the point where you're always peaceful, you're always joyful, the mind is always happy, you're not argumentative with other people, you have focus, concentration, clarity, deep memory, that you have personal and professional relationships that are really blossoming, that you're not being bitter and harsh and resentful in these relationships. You can even get to a point where you don't even have a bad mood any longer. And that comes through training of the mind. The teachings of the Buddha aren't a bunch of beliefs, that you believe a bunch of things and hope something good happens when you die. You're actively training the mind. And that brings me to today's topic of understanding how to acquire concentration, because concentration is so important in order to train your mind, that you're going to need this focus and this clarity in the mind. And that's what's going to help you to perform optimally in your day-to-day life. So what the Buddha did is he discovered these individual pollutions in the mind. And when you train your mind to uproot those pollutions, your mind will perform more optimally. Essentially, if your mind is polluted, which every mind in the unenlightened state is, if you're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and annoyance and these other feelings, there are certain pollutions that are in your mind. You don't have to feel guilty about that. You haven't done anything wrong. Every single person who's ever been born has these same things in the mind. But once you come to understand what these are and you uproot them, this is where you see the improvement to the condition of your mind. As you're getting rid of these pollutions in the mind, your mind can actually perform optimally, where you essentially train and hone the mind, where you can have this concentration. But this is just one quality among many qualities that an enlightened being's mind would have. Loving kindness is one of those qualities. Compassion is one of those qualities. Sympathetic joy, where you're joyful for other people's success. Equanimity, where you have calmness and composure. All these different qualities are all qualities that you can cultivate in the mind. But concentration is a really important one, because as you develop more and more focus and concentration in your mind, you'll be able to bring forth your wisdom, making wise decisions in your day-to-day life, and then experiencing wholesome outcomes or wholesome results. As long as you lack wisdom, you'll make unwise decisions that lead to unwholesome results, or we might say unwholesome karma. Some people call it karma. This word karma or karma is from the Sanskrit language, where the word karma is from the Pali language. The original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so people who tend to study those will use this word karma. What this means is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not even about who's to blame or who's at fault. There's no being overseeing this natural law, determining who gets what. It's basically the results of your decisions. When you make decisions wisely, you'll experience wholesome karma, or wholesome results. And when you make decisions unwisely, you'll experience unwholesome results, or unwholesome karma. And one of the wholesome results of having trained one's mind is you experience more and more concentration. So in order to get to the point where you're experiencing only wholesome karma, you're going to need concentration in order to be able to make wise decisions in your day-to-day life. If your mind's unfocused and uncalm, you're not going to be able to access wisdom, make wise decisions, and produce wholesome results. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're only experiencing wholesome results in your day-to-day life. There's nothing unwholesome coming back to you, because you're only making wise decisions in your day-to-day life. So cultivating concentration is essentially going to hone your mind to the point where you can bring forth all your wisdom to be able to then make wise decisions and experience nothing but wholesome results in your day-to-day life. So I'm going to teach this to you and help you guys have some ideas of how to basically train your mind to get to the point where you have more and more concentration. This is built upon a foundational teaching called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha, and I taught this on Monday in this course. So I've already taught that. So any students who are looking to cultivate concentration in their mind, they're going to need to develop the Eightfold Path. And if you haven't learned that with me yet, it's okay. You can learn it through our books, our audiobooks, our videos, our podcasts. We have courses and live streams where you can join at any time, because I teach this all the time. And it's been recorded frequently, so you can actually watch the recordings and you can learn this, because you're going to need to learn it and train your mind in the Eightfold Path. And as somebody's doing that, then there's these things that I'm going to teach you here today in order to add on top of the Eightfold Path to really hone your mind. If you have questions as I'm going, I'm going to pause it a couple times. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. For those of you guys here at the temple, if you wouldn't mind using the microphones in the white bowl here in front of the camera, all you need to do is come get a microphone, press the gray button. You're going to see lights come on, and you just hold it up to your chin, and then you can speak, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online through our live stream as well. And you can take these microphones back to your seat and talk from there, because you might have more more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphones. There's plenty up here. And then for those of you guys online, whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your questions in the comment section, or you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and ask any questions that you like. Okay? So let me just switch over to the visual aids for the folks online. Just take me a second here. Okay, so here, just to get us started and helping you to understand how to get started with acquiring concentration and developing this in the mind, you're going to need to acquire wisdom. This is the whole reason why the mind doesn't have concentration, is because it lacks the wisdom of how to actually train itself to have more concentration. You're going to need to understand the path to enlightenment. Every aspect of the path to enlightenment is all about cultivation of wisdom. As you heard me share, there's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha that are based in belief. So in order to get to wisdom, you need to be able to learn, examine, and investigate his teachings. Then you need to be able to reflect on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. Then you're going to need to practice these teachings, integrating them into your life and actually training your mind. And as you're doing this, this is where you'll see the real results. But in order to get to wisdom, you can't just believe your way to that, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody either convinced you to believe it or you convince yourself to believe it. And then your mind can easily be shaken up when you're just believing something. But when you cultivate wisdom, you've seen the truth for yourself. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are here for you to be able to do, to acquire this wisdom. So that's the first thing you need to be able to do, is acquire wisdom and develop this life practice. This life practice is based on the Eightfold Path. That's why I mentioned that at the beginning. These are 8 individual steps that you're dialing into your life, and you're learning and integrating into your life on a day-to-day basis. And we use the original words of the Buddha in order to be able to help you to learn this. All of our books and videos and podcasts and everything that I share is based on his original words, and you can learn that and you can investigate it, you can reflect on it to verify it, and then you can practice it and see that it actually works. What the Eightfold Path is it's essentially like if you had a speaker system and you had 8 dials, you would look to dial these dials in and tweak them to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. And this is what you're doing with your mind, is you're dialing in this Eightfold Path in this life practice in order to get a better and better quality performing mind. So you need to learn this life practice, or this Eightfold Path, and dial this into your life more and more closely. And there's plenty of help for you to be able to do this, not only through the resources that I mentioned, but courses and classes and even personal guidance. This is all available to you at no cost to be able to learn and train your mind in this way. So you're going to need to acquire wisdom. Then, as part of that Eightfold Path, you're going to learn meditation and generosity. There's a meditation called breathing mindfulness meditation that you start out with. And this is going to help train your mind to be focused and concentrated by focusing on the breath. And anytime your mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and bring your mind back to the breath. If you haven't exercised the mind, then it's not going to be very strong. It's just like a muscle. If you go to the gym and you lift weights, when your friend's like, hey, can you help me move my couch? You're like, sure, I'll help you move your sofa because you got these muscles. You can do that, right? But if you haven't been exercising your mind in something like meditation, then your mind's not going to be very strong. It's not going to be very concentrated. There's nothing physically wrong with you. It's not that your brain's defective or anything like that. It's just that it hasn't been exercised. You need to be able to exercise the mind to make it stronger. It's just like a muscle that it will perform better when you exercise it. In this body that you have, you might be cleaning this body every day, like brushing your teeth and taking a shower and things like this. But if you're not cleaning the mind, you're not addressing this entire being. You're only addressing one part of this being, which is the physical body. You need to address the mind as well. And that's where meditation comes in, is it's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session to eliminate certain unwholesome qualities from your mind and cultivate certain wholesome qualities. So this breathing mindfulness meditation is cultivating the concentration in the mind, also mindfulness or awareness of mind, and it's training the mind to let go, to let go. So if during that breathing mindfulness meditation section, your mind had to keep letting go and letting go and letting go, this is completely normal. Because as I mentioned to you, the mind craves permanence. It holds on. It clings. It doesn't know how to let go. That's why when you first broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, you were feeling maybe miserable for a while. You felt bored or lonely, or you missed this person. You felt frustrated because the mind was holding on. But then at some point, you decided to let go. Your mind let go. You were like, if he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let him go. Or maybe she wanted to move across to another part of the world. And you were like, you know what? If that's what she wants to do, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's when your peacefulness came in. So you would like to be able to train your mind, not only to have concentration, but also to have mindfulness or awareness of mind. So you can see the thoughts and ideas that are going on in your mind. And then to be able to let go. Let go, let go. Because when your mind's holding on, that's when it's going to get discontent. So the meditation is helping you to do that, as well as the generosity. When you're practicing generosity, it's training your mind to let go, let go. Generosity is when you're giving and sharing with other people, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources, without any expectation of anything in return. When you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you might find it very difficult to share. You might find that you're a little bit selfish, perhaps, where you're holding on to things very tightly. You can't live open-handedly and share with other people. The mind might think, if I do this for 3 hours, I want this in return. Or if I do this for 3 days, I want this in return. This is the mind having a craving, desire, attachment, the expectation. Well, you're going to need to do this to a certain degree. You're going to need to have a job and make an income and things like this. But it's when you're longing, yearning, and that's all you focus on is these selfish desires that the mind tends to hold on more and more and more. You would like to get to a point where you're willing to give and share with the people around you without any expectation of anything in return. So say you're walking into a store and someone's behind you, you might decide to hold the door for them, right? And this is generosity. This is sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources. But you need to be sure that you do it without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there holding the door, expecting someone to say thank you, and they don't say thank you, you will get angry. You will get upset. You will get frustrated because there's still a craving there. There's still an expectation. The mind hasn't fully let go. It'd be wonderful if everybody said thank you, but we live in an impermanent world. Some people are going to say thank you and some people won't. It's just the nature of the world, right? But if you're standing there with the expectation that someone will say thank you, then you're not actually practicing pure generosity yet because there's an expectation there. You would like to hold the door because you know that it's enhancing the quality of your mind. It's training your mind to let go and not have any expectation of anything in return. And now when you do these kinds of things more and more, where you're sharing your time, your effort, your energy, your resources, such as your food, maybe you share financial success every once in a while, maybe you share your clothes, your jewelry, maybe you share your house or things like this. This can be very beneficial for your mind. It trains your mind to let go. So where the concentration comes in with the enlightened mind is, yes, the meditation and things like this is helping you to develop your concentration, but where your concentration is really being developed is when you're letting go of your cravings, desires, attachments. When you have longing, yearning in your mind, when your mind is chasing after something, it can't be focused. It can't be concentrated. It just wants that new phone and it's going to chase after it and it's going to chase after it. And it can't even see anything else that's going on. It's just chasing after this new phone, or it's chasing after that boyfriend or girlfriend, or it's chasing after this new money, or it wants this new house and it's chasing after that, or it wants these new shoes or this new jewelry. The mind is just chasing and chasing and chasing. And when your mind's chasing with craving, desire, attachment, it can't have clarity and concentration. So when you're training your mind with meditation and generosity, you're training your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. And as you're eliminating those out of your mind, that's where the mind becomes more focused and more concentrated. So yes, there's meditation that's needed in order to develop concentration, but that meditation is eliminating your cravings, and that's what's producing the concentration, is the elimination of craving, desire, attachment. Then you'd like to develop your concentration by eliminating the pollutions of the mind. There's something called craving, anger, and ignorance that's in the mind. I taught this on Monday. It's called the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots. This is what's actually plaguing the mind from a high level. At a detailed level, the Buddha talks about these as the 10 fetters. But at a higher level, we refer to them as craving, anger, and ignorance. The craving is the mind chasing after its selfish desires, wanting things to be a certain way. And when the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy. But when it doesn't get what it wants, these painful feelings like anger can start to arise in the mind. And then when you're angry, you're being maybe bitter, harsh, and hostile to people through your intention, speech, and actions. You're maybe pushing people away, thinking that that's going to solve your problem. But you can see it didn't solve the problem because you just keep getting annoyed and frustrated over and over and over again. Or you're putting your expectations on people and trying to control people. So as long as you have craving in your mind, then it's going to get angry and frustrated at certain periods of time. And when that anger and frustration is coming up in your mind, you can't be focused. You can't be concentrated. Think about times when you've been angry or frustrated with your family members or your life partner or your boss or something like this. You couldn't even think straight. You were so angry. It's like you've popped a cork on your head and maybe there's like steam coming out, right? So as long as there's craving in the mind, there's going to be this anger. And where it's coming from is this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom. The mind firmly believes in the unenlightened state that other people are causing you to be angry. You might firmly believe that. You've probably been in arguments before where you've been adamantly trying to convince somebody that what they were doing was making you angry and they had to stop doing what they were doing, or they had to do it your way. You might have been arguing it almost till death. It's like a fight to death, right? But this isn't truly what's going on. But it's this unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom, this misunderstanding that's allowing the cravings to continue, and it's allowing the anger to continue. As long as you have a lack of wisdom, then your mind's going to continue to crave and it'll continue to get angry. So by getting rid of this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality by arising wisdom, then you can learn how to eliminate the cravings. And when you eliminate the cravings, you can eliminate the anger. And this is where you get to the peace and the joy. Okay, so these are the first 3 things that I'm sharing here about how to develop concentration. There's a little bit more here for me to share, but I'd like to just pause and see what questions you guys might have about anything that I'm discussing. You can get a microphone here, help yourself. Just turn it on with the gray button and you'll see the lights, and then just hold it up to your chin.
Thank you, teacher. So when concentration is fully developed, you could say that restlessness of mind is completely out of the mind?
When concentration is fully developed, we could say that, yes, when it's fully permeating in the mind. Okay. But when you're in those jhanas that I talked about yesterday, you're going to have a great deal of concentration, but the mind's still going to have some restlessness because of that fetter of restlessness that's in the mind, that 9th fetter, that higher fetter.
Okay, and out of curiosity, because if you have eliminated all the lower fetters and then most of the upper ones, including conceit and even desire for form and formless, what is causing the restlessness of mind? What is one of the last ones to go?
Yeah, so that ignorance is the last one to go for everybody. But even that desire for form and desire for formless, that's still a craving, but it's not from the sensual, it's not from the 6 sense bases, essentially. It's from the mind, but it's not from sensual desire the way we think about it. It's just a thought in the mind that has that desire for form and desire for formless. So the mind can be overactive. The equanimity isn't yet completely fully established. By the time you get rid of the restlessness, you will have equanimity and concentration fully established, and there's no restlessness in the mind.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. Not yet.
I just want to ask, how do you recognize like the boundaries of generosity? Because like for me, sometimes I feel others need more than myself, and I will be over generous to others and eventually cause harm to myself. Does that make sense? Like, how do you actually recognize the boundaries of that?
Yeah. So everything you do on the path to enlightenment needs to be supported by discernment or wise decision making, and also practicing the middle way. You need to be able to not long and yearn and crave to be generous. You can actually crave and be attached to being generous. And if you're not making wise decisions or practicing discernment, you're going to be giving and depleting your own ability to support yourself. So the Buddha talks about when you're practicing generosity to make sure you and the people around you are whole, essentially, that you're whole first before you start, spreading out your generosity all over the world. But you can still be generous even without it's not just financial. It's your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources. But also if you were craving desire attachment and you were sharing excessively, is that going to cause problems? But if you're all the way on this other side where you were selfish and you weren't sharing at all, that's going to cause you problems too. So with each one of these aspects of practice, you need to come to the middle way and find that middle way. And when you're in the middle, you'll notice that the mind will be peaceful and it'll be calm. And then with something like generosity, that middle way is going to shift. Right? So maybe at one time in your life, maybe you're making a lot of money, you have lots of financial resources, and you're sharing maybe $1,000, $2,000 a month, perhaps, with a particular organization or something like this. But then maybe you go through a period of time where you're not working as much and your income declines, and now you're going to need to throttle that back. So this middle way, once you find it, the mind will be peaceful there, where you're not sharing excessively, but you're not never sharing either. But then you need to be attentive to what it is that you're sharing and making sure that you're whole yourself. And so that's what I would share with you. One thing I'll add, though, is this word boundaries that sometimes people talk about in the world. This is actually a craving, desire, attachment. That if someone thinks that they're going to go out into the world and teach other people my boundaries, and if you cross this boundary, you've done something wrong. So I know you didn't use it in this way, but I just mentioned it because sometimes people talk about this, that if someone has boundaries in their mind and they think that I'm going to now go out and teach other people my boundaries, this is like trying to teach other people how to interact with me, and this will never work because you can't teach 8 billion people to do things your way. And then someone might feel justified, like, oh, you've crossed my boundary, so now I'm mad at you or I'm angry at you. Where in reality, you can just make wise decisions. If, say, for example, somebody touches you in an inappropriate way, and someone might say, well, they've crossed my boundary. No, what they've done is they've made an unwise decision. And now when people are making unwise decisions around you, it's best to move away and get away from that. So if somebody, say, touched you inappropriately, all you need to do is choose to walk away from that and get as far away from it as possible. It's kind of like if you're driving a car and somebody starts driving erratically, the best thing to do is get as far away from that person as possible. You're not interested in being anywhere around them. So whenever you see people making unwise decisions, it's best to kind of move away and not allow that to be involved in your life.
But is it possible sometimes you just don't have the choice to move away? You are stuck somewhere and someone's trying to harm you in the most possible way, and you just don't have the opportunity to move away. How do you do when that really happened?
Like in what situation? Can you give me an example?
For a very personal experience, like when I was a child, I've been abused. And when I was a child, I don't have my own will to go somewhere else. I need to live at home. And I need to be abused. That's what happened to me. I have no choice. I have to. It's me. I have to be there. I have nowhere to go. And what do I do when that happened?
Yeah. So I had similar experiences as you, and when we're young like that, we lack wisdom and we lack independence. So yeah, we experience a certain amount of abuse in some situations, but then as we age and we get more wisdom and we get more independence, that's when we choose to move away. And that's when we get away from that abuse. And then we know that we're never going to go back into that situation again, and we don't let it ever happen. So that's why I started with, you need to acquire wisdom. Because when we lack wisdom, even as a child, we encounter harms that we don't know how to handle, we don't know how to deal with. But when you cultivate wisdom, then you'll be able to deal with any issue that comes to your way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, I have some more questions. I have a couple of mics out.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, you say that when we take wise decisions, we have good things coming to us. But I don't know. I mean, this makes me think about certain situations that they don't have anything to do with me, but still, like for example, like public figures like Muhammad Ali. When he decided not to go to the war, and he talked about it openly. And I mean, for me, this is a really wise decision. So he said he wouldn't go because he would not kill anybody. So then they take his bail away. He cannot fight after that, and then he goes to jail. And I don't know, I mean, I guess there are another examples. I don't know how to pronounce that name, Henry David Thoreau or something like that. He also decided not to pay taxes to the United States, to not support the war, and he went to jail. And I don't know, maybe taking wise decisions sometimes, they don't lead us to the most nice things.
So in all these two situations that you're talking about, they're not making 100% wise decisions. There's the decision wisely not to go fight in a war. I agree, that's a wise decision. But the decision that they're making is to be in a country where there's a significant amount of craving, anger, and ignorance. In the USA, there's a significant amount of that. And because of that, then they're being affected by the people who are choosing to make decisions to put them in jail for this decision to not go to war. So it's only an enlightened being who has extinguished 100% of their unwise decisions, and now they're only making wise decisions that are experiencing wholesome results. So it's not like Muhammad Ali made this one wise decision and then every other decision in his life was also wise, so therefore he's going to experience only wholesome results. It's that, yes, he made a wise decision, in my opinion, to not go to the war, but he also had these other unwise decisions that he was making, that's what was affecting him, and that's what made him end up going into jail. If that's what occurred. I don't know his life story that much, but I trust what you're saying is true. So it's not just one decision is leading to a particular outcome. There's oftentimes multiple decisions, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. So if you live in a society of people where there's a lot of craving, anger, and ignorance, now even when you're making wise decisions, you're making those wise decisions amongst people who have a lot of craving, anger, and ignorance in their mind. And now your decision to be in that, you're now going to be affected by it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and all this information. I really appreciate it. I want to say first. And then I'm curious, like I felt some negative thoughts or negative feelings are caused in some cases by like childhood trauma or insecurity. I'm just wondering, do you think by practicing mindfulness or developing concentration will help, will solve the problem, or sometimes it maybe we need to see a therapist or go further to solve the problem?
Yeah, I've found all the solutions that I've needed in the teachings of the Buddha. Surely there's therapists out there and people out there that are doing good work to be able to help you in those kinds of situations. But anything that you've experienced in the past, like some kind of traumatic experience that you're now experiencing feelings from now in the present moment, this is just the mind clinging to that experience. And now it's forming feelings based on that experience in the past. And the mind just doesn't want to let go. That's the whole problem that the Buddha discovered. And he talked about it in a very simple context, a very simple way. And because of it's so simple, it's actually so profound because the common person can understand it. That you can understand that if you've gotten abused in the past, either physically or sexually or any other way, then your mind can hold on to those experiences. And now in the present moment, even though you're maybe 5, 10, 20 years away from that situation, you can feel sad, or you can feel stress or anxiety or any number of feelings now. But this is just the mind holding on to that situation, that experience, and it hasn't let go yet. So by the time you fully train your mind, you'll remember that you've had these experiences in the past, but your mind will no longer be forming feelings based on them. So you can completely heal the mind through training it in the way that the Buddha teaches. In fact, that's the way that I oftentimes talk about the teachings of the Buddha, that it's to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. So whether someone chooses to go to a therapist or not is totally up to them. But I found everything I needed in the teachings of the Buddha, and he offers a complete solution and a complete package that allows you to be able to eliminate all these discontent feelings.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. I don't see any other questions anywhere. Let me just check online, see if we have anything. Oh, we have a question back there? Sure.
So I wonder about promises. Like, how do you view the promises of others? Like, I had situations where people promise something, for example, a job offer, and it fell through. And also like a friendship that lasts a long time, but they just slowly distance themselves away. And so I find right now, find it hard to trust those promises. Like, I'll always assume the worst. I would feel like the promises will just fall through, and I don't trust like people that much, especially in terms of like promises. How do you view this?
Yeah, what you need to understand is things are constantly changing in the world. This is called the universal truth of impermanence, that everything around you is just constantly changing. There's nothing that's permanent. So someone could say something to you and agree something to you, but then something could change in their life that doesn't allow them to do that any longer. So whenever somebody agrees for something to you, it's unwise for your mind to grab onto it and expect that this is going to happen or cling to it. For example, my wife, about a year ago, she told me that she was going to start helping me to pay for my son's school. Because we live together, we're a family, right? And I usually pay for my son's school, but my wife was like, hey, I'm going to start helping you. I'm going to give you 5,000 baht a month to be able to help you with our son's school. And I was like, all right, great. But in the back of my mind, I know that this may or may not even happen, right? Because she might change her mind. You don't know. Well, a year later, when it was time to start doing this, she had changed her mind. And she said, hey, I'm going to buy this land over here, and I'm going to use the money for this instead. I was like, okay, it's up to you, whatever you'd like to do. It's her choice. So my mind never grabbed onto it. I never expected it. I never longed and yearned and wanted it. And whatever choices she makes for her life, that's up to her. So you need to be able to make sure that when people are promising things to you, that you work towards that, but you never allow your mind to grab onto it and cling to it, crave it, and expect it. Because once you do that and things start changing in your life, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated, you'll get to a point where you can't trust people, right? So you'd like to be able to understand that things are constantly changing. And while people might commit to something and you would like to, kind of feel confident that this is potentially going to occur, you got to add that potentially going to occur. It may or may not occur because things change, and that's just changed. My wife didn't cause me harm, right? She didn't cause any harm to me. She said she was going to offer this money. That's what her intention was, and I appreciated that. But then later, things changed in her life. She didn't cause me physical harm. She didn't cause harm to my material possessions. She didn't cause harm to my reputation. I wasn't angry. I wasn't frustrated because my mind never grabbed onto it. So you'll need to practice that. But your mind doesn't know how to do that until you've trained it in the way that I'm teaching with the Eightfold Path and these other teachings. You need to be able to train your mind to not grab on and hold on. Because there are certain things that your mind's holding on to now that you need to learn how to let go of. But then you need to also train your mind not to grab onto things and hold on to them and have expectations. Because that's where you'll kind of sabotage your ability to have peacefulness and joy, because as soon as you grab onto something and expect it to be permanent, once it starts changing, now your mind's going to be discontent. You're going to be frustrated with that.
So what you're saying is that when someone promises you something, you trust it at the moment, but you don't grab on into it, and so you just continue living like as if the promise didn't even exist in the past.
Exactly, where it may or may not happen. Like right now, I can give you another example, is that right now we're upgrading our temple here, and there's been multiple people that have said, hey, I'm going to support you this way or support you that way, and I'm like, great, I'm very appreciative of that, but something could change in their life and I never know, and maybe something changes and they're not able to support what we're doing here, and that's okay, right? Because my mind never grabbed onto it and craved it and longed and yearned for it. Be appreciative for what people offer you, but don't allow your mind to grab onto it and expect it, because that's when you're going to sabotage your ability to have peacefulness, because things will change. People's life will change, and you never know when that's going to happen. And they're not causing you any harm. They just had some change in their life, and they're not able to follow through on what they originally agreed to. And that's where things need to be adjusted. Now, if you have a contract, right, like a business contract, and there's obligations, and you're investing things, and they're supposed to contribute certain things, this is different, right? This is a business agreement. This is a contract. This is something that you're investing in, they're investing in. And now if they break a contract, now that's where there's courts of law to be able to sort those kinds of things out. But when it's all kind of like informal stuff, you need to make sure that your mind doesn't grab onto it. But even when you're in a contract with somebody, you need to make sure your mind doesn't grab onto that too, because not every contract is going to be fulfilled 100%. And in this situation, if somebody breaks a contract with you and you get really angry and bitter and hostile and harsh, even if you decide to go in the direction of legal remedy, like going to a court or something like that, with that anger and bitterness and hostility, you won't be able to make wise decisions to bring this to a wonderful close or kind of a resolution. So even in a situation where someone signed a contract, you should tell your mind, like, okay, this person is obligating themselves legally, but at the same time, you're not interested in even grabbing onto that, so that if they break the contract for any reason, now you can go forward with any kind of remedy or recourse that you can do, but you do it with a calm mind, without the anger, bitterness, and hostility.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Okay, so I've got a few more things to share with you here on this topic. Okay, so the next thing to do in order to cultivate concentration is to practice singleness of mind, that the mind can only do one thing at a time. You might have been taught that you can multitask. This is something that came out in the 1960s. When computers came out, computers can multitask because they have a computer chip. They can do multiple tasks at one time. Then human beings started thinking that we can multitask too. So people started trying to multitask. And this was something that is being taught in the business community. And I think it's still being taught in the business community, right? And what you're essentially doing is your mind isn't doing multiple things at one time. You're not truly multitasking. What you're doing is you're basically doing one thing for 3 or 4 seconds, and then you're rapidly cycling to something else for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 seconds, and then you're rapidly cycling to something else for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 seconds. You're essentially moving your mind around rapidly from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And if your mind's doing this, it's almost like a racehorse running around a racetrack. When it goes to the barn, it can't calm down. It's really hyped up. It can't relax. So when you get to the end of your workday, you might find it very challenging to relax. You might find a lot of stress and anxiety in your mind because you've been go all day long. Your mind's rapidly cycling from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. So if you understand that the mind can only do one thing at a time, then you should only do one thing at a time with your mind. Just be focused and clear. So if you're at work, for example, and you're typing out an email and somebody walks into your office and wants to talk to you, you either need to stop writing your email and now address them and talk to them, or you need to tell your coworker, one moment, and then you finish up your email, and then when you're done with your email, then you address the person. But if you're trying to talk to the person and write your email at the same time, your mind's going to be bouncing back and forth like this, and you're not going to have concentration and you're not going to have focus. So you'd like to just do one thing at a time and not promote this rapid cycling of going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, where your mind becomes overactive. You'd like to practice this singleness of mind where you're gradually training your mind to do one thing at a time. When you're washing dishes and you see your mind wanders, cut that off and bring it back. Or if you're in a business meeting and you see your mind wanders, cut that off and bring it back. Don't allow your mind to go off like that. Stay focused and concentrated on whatever it is that you're doing in that present moment. And when you're done with that, then move to the next thing. And by doing things single-threaded like this, sometimes people say, oh, I'm not going to get so much done. It's going to take me so much more time to do things. Actually, it's not. Because when you're multitasking or attempting to multitask and you're rapidly cycling from thing to thing to thing, you're going to be making all kinds of mistakes. And you're going to be making unwise decisions. It's going to produce unwholesome results. And you're going to have to go back and clean that up. So for example, if I was talking on the phone with my mom, she's dead, I can't talk to her anymore, but if she was on the phone and I'm watching TV and I'm eating a sandwich, if my mind's rapidly cycling through that, this conversation that could have probably been 15 minutes, it just took 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. And now I stumbled over the things that I was talking about. Maybe I wasn't being as kind and polite as I could have been. Maybe I damaged the relationship, and I've got to go back and clean all that stuff up. So not only did the conversation take longer, but I have to go back and clean all this up. And maybe I even agreed to certain things during the conversation that I don't even remember anymore. So now you have to go back and be like, Mom, what was that I was supposed to do? I'm so sorry, I forgot. What am I supposed to do? What did I agree to? Right? So if you just focus for the 10, 15 minute phone call and it's done, over with, and now you're off doing whatever you need to be doing. So it actually is more productive to do one thing at a time, because that television program, you didn't really digest that and benefit from that anyway. And the sandwich that you were eating, you probably didn't enjoy it. It probably is causing pain in your stomach. And now you need to lay around for an hour and moan and groan because your stomach hurts, right? So you like to do things one thing at a time, and it's actually going to help you to be more productive. You need to restrain your mind so the mind's not bouncing around from thing to thing to thing to thing. So you're going to need to observe your mind and notice whenever it's longing, yearning, whenever it's chasing after things, that you pull it back, that you don't allow the mind to keep chasing. This is your mindfulness or your awareness of mind that's going to help you to do this. That's why the meditation is so important, to cultivate your awareness of mind, so that whenever you see your mind longing, yearning, and chasing after something, you can restrain it and pull it back. If you've ever ridden on a horse and you have the reins and you pull back the reins of a horse, it's the same thing. You need to do this to your mind. You need to pull back the reins on your mind where you see it longing, yearning, and chasing. You need to pull it back and restrain it. And that's what's going to help you to be able to cultivate this concentration, so that whenever you see those cravings arising, you cut them off and let them go. Because remember, I shared with you that when you're eliminating your cravings, that's what's going to produce the concentration. So if you're at the mall and you see your mind longing, yearning for that new pair of shoes, and you're like, oh my goodness, look at those shoes. They're going to look so good on my feet. Oh, I can't wait to get those on. Oh, they're going to be so awesome. Ah, it's going to make me so happy. And you see your mind longing, yearning. It's like, whoa, that's a craving. Restrain that. Pull it back. Don't allow your mind to do that. Maybe you already have 20 or 30 pairs of shoes at home. How can this one more pair of shoes really help you? Right? So you can restrain the mind and pull it back. And when you're cutting this off, that's what's going to help you to be able to be more focused and concentrated, where you get your mind disciplined, where it won't do that any longer. It's kind of like if you had a post or a pillar, and these animals were tied to this post and pillar, and they kept pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and they kept getting yanked back and yanked back and yanked back. Eventually, these animals would figure out that they're anchored by this post or pillar, and they would just sit down and they would just be calm at that post and pillar. So your mind is the same way. It's going to keep pulling and pulling and pulling. And if you keep yanking it back and yanking it back and yanking it back, eventually it's going to figure out that every time it tries to pull, you keep pulling it back and yanking it back, and it's going to sit down and be calm. It's not going to keep pulling, but it's going to take you multiple months and even years to be able to train the mind to do this. But it is a permanent solution, that once you get to the point where your mind is enlightened, it's a permanent solution. You'll never experience the anger and frustration. You'll never experience the distracted mind again, that once you develop your concentration, it'll just always be there. So whenever you see your mind pulling, yank it back, like bring it back to that post or pillar, and over time, it'll just sit there and be calm. Okay, so these are some other things that you can be doing. And then lastly, it's important to just deal with one person at a time. That whenever you're around people, if people are constantly kind of trying to grab your attention, that you just deal with one person at a time, right? There was a time where I used to, I still do, where I teach in my house. I have a home studio where I teach classes there. I live stream it, but I also have Zoom calls with students where students will schedule personal guidance with me, and I'll be talking with the student over Zoom. And my son used to walk into my room, and he would actually barge into my room. It was like, blah, 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 blah. He would, throw open the door and come on in. Daddy, I need your help. I need this. I need that. And I would just focus on the student. I would just ignore him. I would just focus on the student. I just keep talking and talking. And then eventually he realized Dad's not going to address him. And he would stop talking, and he would either stand there and wait for me, or he would just leave. And then over time, he learned that whenever he barged into the room, Dad wasn't going to address him. And he learned that this was unwise, and he stopped doing it. It took him 15 or 20 times of barging in and realizing Dad wasn't going to address him, that he learned that, hey, Dad's doing something, and it's not wise to go in there. I'm not going to get what I want. Whereas if every time he barged in, if I gave him what he wanted, which was my attention, he's just learned, hey, I can just barge in on Dad anytime, and he's going to give me what I want. But he didn't learn that. He learned just the opposite, that when he barges in, he doesn't get what he wants. And then at one point we did have a conversation. I said, just come in whenever you have an emergency. And he's like, Dad, it was an emergency. The batteries in my remote control car weren't working, and I needed your help. I was like, that's not an emergency, son. I was like, if the house is burning down, that's an emergency, right? So he learned he needed to cultivate wisdom. He was only about 8 years old at this point, right? So he needed to get a little bit of wisdom. But at first, for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I just didn't address him. And then over time, I helped him cultivate wisdom. And then he learned that this was unwise to come in and barge in. But I can't teach everybody those kinds of things. So even here at the temple, if I'm teaching or if I'm done with class and a student comes up, I just help one student at a time. And then slowly but surely, the people around you realize that this is how you function, and they will function that way around you. And you don't have to teach them overtly. You just basically teach through your actions. But by the way you choose to do things, then people will interact you in that way. So in the office, if you were in a professional environment, if when coworkers barged into your office and you just address them right away, they learn, hey, just barge into her office and she'll help you, or he'll help you. But if you teach them by just you choosing to do it, not overtly teaching them, but when someone barges into your office, you just keep typing your email, or you just keep staying on the phone and talking to your phone call and having your conversation, this person who just barged into your office, they learn that, hey, they're not going to address me whenever I barge into their office. So you can teach through your actions and the way that you actually choose to do things. A well-trained mind is going to be relaxed and calm, but yet it's going to be attentive and alert. Oftentimes when we think about relaxed and calm, we don't think attentive and alert. But by the time your mind gets to enlightenment, your mind is calm and relaxed, but yet it's attentive and alert. So you should see this occurring as you're training your mind on the Eightfold Path. You should see this calmness and this relaxed state of mind coming into the mind, but you should see this attentiveness and this alertness in the mind. The mind's going to be focused. It's going to have concentration, this deep memory, and this clarity of thought. And the reason why this is so important is because when your mind is calm, you will have mindfulness or awareness of mind. When you have awareness of mind, you'll have concentration or focus. And when you have focus and this concentration, you'll be able to access your wisdom and make wise decisions that produce wholesome results. Conversely, when your mind's uncalm, when it's all shaken up, you're not going to have mindfulness or awareness of mind. Then you're not going to have focus and concentration. And you're going to make unwise decisions because you can't access your wisdom, and it's going to produce unwholesome results. So for example, if someone gave you a phone call and they said, hey, your mom was just in a terrible car accident. She's in the back of an ambulance being rushed to the hospital. If you allowed your mind to get all uncalm there, if you started getting shaken up and grabbed your car keys, jumped into the car, ran across town, you could easily get in a car accident yourself, right? And now you're making unwise decisions that's going to lead to further unwholesome results. But at the very least, even if you get to the hospital, your mind's all shaken up. The nurses and the doctors are talking to you and trying to tell you what's going on with your mom. how are you going to be able to make wise decisions to be able to help your mom? Because your mind's all shaken up, because you allowed it to become uncalm. So now you don't have that awareness of mind or mindfulness. You don't have the concentration. And now you lack the ability to make wise decisions that's producing wholesome results. So by maintaining your calmness and composure, you get that phone call that mom's in the back of an ambulance. She's been in a terrible car accident. In your mind, you think, you know what? She's in the best place she could be. She's with emergency medical technicians in the back of an ambulance. She's about to show up to a hospital with sophisticated equipment that can help her. Let me calmly make my way to the hospital so I can figure out what's going on here, talk to the doctors and nurses, make wise decisions, and I can help mom. Right? This is the way to do things. So you're going to need to keep your mind calm and composed, even in difficult situations, because that's going to lead to mindfulness or awareness of mind. It's going to lead to concentration. And then you can access your wisdom, making wise decisions that produces wholesome results. Then you'd like to develop the mind through exercising it. As I mentioned, you're going to need to develop this concentration and this memory. Nowadays, we have lots of devices that kind of takes that away from us. We have mobile phones that store phone numbers. All you got to do is press a button and boom, someone gets called, things like this. We have lots of different devices that have kind of taken us away from having to exercise our memory. For some of us, we used to have to memorize phone numbers, right? We used to have to memorize phone numbers. Some of you guys maybe not have experienced that. And then we had this phone that you had to, this rotary phone. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It would kind of take you like 30 seconds or a minute even to make a phone call. And if you got one number wrong, you had to start back over from the very beginning, right? So you really had to be focused and concentrated just to use the phone, because you had to remember the phone number, and then you had to pay a lot of attention to that rotary dial to make sure you got every single number accurately. Where today we don't have that. We don't have that regular exercising of the mind. So what I encourage you to do is, where there are situations like where we live life today, you might get a OTP, a one-time password, right? It comes through your email in order to confirm or verify your login. It's a 6-digit number. Instead of like flipping back and forth, try to look at the 6-digit number, try to remember it, and now try to flip over and try to put that in, right? This is going to exercise your mind. So you can find like little ways like this to try to exercise your mind. There might be other situations in your day-to-day life that you can kind of exercise the mind. So even though these modern devices have taken away our need to be able to cultivate the concentration, this is one of the reasons why we see a lack of concentration in our communities, because these devices have taken that option away from us. So you can actually regain this by situations that you see that you could potentially exercise the mind a little bit. You can actually do that. You can start trying to do those kinds of things. Maybe memorize a few phone numbers, maybe memorize some OTP numbers that are coming to you and things like this. So you might be able to find these different things in your life to really exercise the mind, because meditation is doing that. But then you would like to do this in other situations too. Me and my son, we even play a game. You guys, if you know the game Concentration, where you take cards and you lay them down, and then you flip over one card, and it's like a jack of diamonds, and then you flip over another card. Maybe it's like an ace of spades. Those don't match, so you put them back down. And now you have to remember where that jack of diamonds was. And now when you flip over the jack of hearts, it's like, where was that jack of diamonds? And now you play a game in order to concentrate. Or me and my son, we have played this game in the past where I give him 3 things and he has to go off throughout the house on a scavenger hunt and find these 3 things and bring them back to me. And then when he brings those back to me, then we move to 4 things, and we move to 5 things and 6 things. And he has to go around the house and remember these 6 things and bring them back to me. And this is a way for him to exercise his mind, but me too, because I have to remember the 6 things that I gave him to go off and get. So these are kind of games and things you can be doing to really exercise the mind and have fun with it. Okay, so any questions here? This is everything I have to share with you guys for today on this particular topic, but I'd like to just open up to anything you guys would like to ask.
Hello? Okay. Please allow me to just sit here to ask you the questions.
Yeah, you can sit wherever you like.
So about the barging into the office thing, that happens to my wife a lot. Doesn't happen to me because I work at home. But so I guess my question is, what if barging into the office and stop what the employees are doing is the culture of that company, and that company is a governmental company that, you know, she really needs to be in. And so like in that case, should I tell her to, you know, be the only free person in her company and then just like, wait a moment, let me finish my thing? I don't know, like, if that's a completely wise decision.
It is a wise decision, because if you continue to conform to what other people are doing around you, you're just going to continue to experience the same results that they're experiencing, which is a lack of concentration, which is anger and sadness and frustration. Someone who's on the path to enlightenment, they're not conforming to what other people are doing around them. They're rising above that and choosing to do something different. So you need to be able to see the wisdom in the benefit of doing something like this and then choose to do it. So if your wife is looking for the guidance and support, then you can give that to her. And then it's up to her to see the wisdom in that and see how that would work so much better for her. And then once she starts doing it and she sees how it actually helps her to be more productive at work, some of her other coworkers will probably start following that, and then that will become the norm at the office. And she'll be the person who everyone's like, wow, thank goodness she started doing this. So she's not going to train those other people to do things her way. She just chooses to start functioning differently. That when someone barges into her office, she doesn't address them right away. That she handles whatever it is that she's handling. And then slowly but surely, over a number of months, these people are going to start to realize that she handles things differently. She does things differently, and now they're going to interact with her in a different way, and she'll experience different results too. And then other people might choose to adopt that as their way of being.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, we have a question here on Zoom. Let's see. I gotta take a look here. Do you have affirmation recommendations to help reduce daily craving? Kapkun ka. You can't reduce craving through affirmations. These affirmations that we're doing, it's not like we're trying to will this into being. It's not like you're trying to manifest this. That's what people talk about. There's no such thing as manifestation. Anything that you accomplish in life, it's going to happen through your own wise decision making. So this affirmations that we're doing in the mind, it's rewiring the mind to bring up this loving kindness so that then you can go out into the world and be more loving and kind. To eliminate craving in the mind, it needs that breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity, but more specifically, the entire Eightfold Path. That's what's going to lead to the elimination of craving, desire, attachment. And based on your screen name, I don't think you've been studying with me. So if you would like to go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, click on the link for free books. And if you start with the first volume of the book series, that's where I would suggest you get started. And then each one of those chapters have a recorded class that's associated with it. And that'll be able to help you to gradually build up your wisdom, because we have classes on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And you can gradually be learning this way, either through our live stream or live here in Chiang Mai. And then we have courses and programs all throughout the month that you can also attend as well. Okay. So it's a little bit before 11. Oh, you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Thank you for your talk. It was very interesting. So I can, of course, relate the fact that if we try to write an email and talk to another person, we cannot really concentrate in both things, and it's not going to be productive for us. But I was thinking about the situation that you talk about the dishwashing. And I usually, when I do something that is very repetitive, like washing my dishes or even driving, so I can listen to podcasts or music. And I was wondering if, like, how do you define this? Is it like trying to multitask, or is it going to hurt my productivity? Because I do feel that it gives me more time to listen to things that I like. And so I would like to hear what you think about it.
Sure. In order to make progress on the path, there needs to be a certain amount of intellectual learning and taking in content. And for some people, all they can do is drive in the car and listen to a podcast. Maybe it's like a single mom with 3 kids, and she has her own business, and she's running her own business too. And the only time she has to study the teachings is to listen to the podcast while she's driving down the road. If this is the case, and that's where that person's at, I would suggest, go forward and do that kind of thing. But over time, as they train their mind and they start to kind of clear out some of the things that are in their life, you would ultimately like to get to a point where you are sitting down and listening to a podcast, or you are sitting down reading a book, and you're not trying to do multiple things like this. Because as long as you're doing that, it's going to hinder your mind from cultivating the concentration that you could really be cultivating otherwise. So for example, if you're washing the dishes and listening to a podcast at the same time, this is where you could easily cut yourself with a knife, or drop a glass and break it, and the glass cuts you on your foot. This is the unwholesome results, or the unwholesome gamma of the unwise decision to try to do two things at one time. It's kind of like if somebody was walking down the street talking on the phone, they're not paying attention to the traffic. Whack. This is where people have gotten killed. There's people that are dead right now because they didn't understand singleness of mind and doing just one thing at a time, because they were walking down the street talking on the phone, and they walked out into traffic and whack, they got killed. And this is really unfortunate. This is the unwholesome gamma, or the unwholesome results of doing more than one thing and not practicing singleness of mind. So if that's where somebody is, driving and listening to a podcast, that's where they're at. But ultimately, I would encourage that person to be working towards eliminating that, because that's going to promote the most concentration and the best results in your life.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
This reminds me, like an enlightened person is beyond also from physical pain, because one time the boiler, do you say boiler in English as well? Okay. The boiler exploded, and it burned my eyes. And I couldn't see. I was scared and I was in pain. So then my dad took me to the hospital, and we were in his car, and he was driving like 20 kilometers per hour. Like really, I barely could see, but I tried my best to see how fast he was going, because I felt he was going super slow. Like he couldn't go slower. I would have been faster in my bicycle. And I told Dad, please hurry. My eyes are burning. I'm in pain. I cannot see. I really need to go to the emergency room. And he replied, that's how accidents happen. So, would you recommend me to start to try to stay in calm? But it was difficult because I was in so much pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so enlightened beings do experience pain, but they experience it differently than an unenlightened being. In the unenlightened state, you'll feel the physical pain, but then because your mind is craving permanent comfort, you're also going to experience mental anguish, which heightens the physical pain. So it's like getting hit with two darts. You get hit with the first dart, that's the physical pain. Then you get hit with the second dart, that's the mental anguish, because the mind's craving permanent comfort. And when it feels that physical pain, then the mind becomes painful and have these painful feelings. So the mind is experiencing more pain. In the enlightened state, when you experience physical pain, you just experience the physical pain. You don't experience mental anguish. You can still be quite joyful and quite peaceful, even though you're having physical pain. So in the unenlightened state, if somebody is experiencing physical pain, they're going to experience heightened amount of physical pain because their mind's not calm. They're uncalm. So yes, in that situation, what you would like to practice and get better and better at is realizing that this body isn't going to be permanently comfortable. It's not possible. And in this situation where you've got burned eyes, it's an impermanent situation. You're going to be able to fix it. It's only a matter of time. And you just remind yourself that this is impermanent. You stay calm because that's what's going to lessen the pain. And now you make your way to the hospital and you get it fixed. And that's what happened. And it looks like it worked.
Yeah. My mind was like really worried because I didn't know if I was going to be able to see again. And I know this is also like craving that I will see for the rest of my life.
Yes.
But yeah, there are like certain situations where, man, it's tough.
Yeah, it's very tough living with an unenlightened mind. It's very tough having craving, desire, attachment in the mind. And that's why it's important to train your mind and get rid of all these things.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm wondering, what's your perspective of insecurity, and do you have any suggestion or advice in terms of mindful practice to nourish ourselves to develop security or contentment?
Let me do this. Let me officially end the class and go to break, and then we can talk at break, and I'll help you with that. Okay.
Yep.
So right now it's 11 o'clock, and I'm going to break for 20 minutes, give you guys a chance to rest and relax, use the restroom and all that good stuff. And when we come back at 11:20, I'm going to teach about what is the ego and how to actually eliminate it. The ego essentially is this arrogance and pride, this boastfulness. And when you're that way, people are going to push you aside. But there's a lot more to this of what the ego actually is and how to eliminate it. So I'm going to be teaching that starting at 11:20. So if you'd like to come back and learn that, you're more than welcome to. So thank you all for your questions. Thank you for your interest to learn. And perhaps I'll see you guys after break. And if not, have a lovely rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you guys in another class. Take care and be well. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.